Welcome in Mabuhay Southeast Asia as we head into Game 4 of what is actually match point for Young Generation here at the Garena Premier League 2017 summer season. Of course, before anything else, intros first and foremost. Arctigatio Service Fam, and of course with me is Atlas. Of course, once again, as a quick recap, this is now a 2-1 in favor of Young Generation, wherein Ascension Gaming have their backs against the wall.
Yeah, they definitely have their backs to the wall here, because if you saw Game 1, they had such a good opening, but then the momentum got cut down by Young Generation. And we discussed earlier, or I said earlier, that getting the third game in a 1-1 situation is so important because it gives you all the momentum back. And if Ascension is not able to get that momentum back, then it's going to be quite a troublesome predicament for this Thailand team. Let's see, however, their bans Jace, Gragas, and Renekton against Ascension, while Rek'Sai, Lulu, and Kalista ban against YG. So it seems like different AD carries this time around. Caitlyn now, first time we saw it in today's matches, and the Zaya as well. Quite interesting. As for YG, picking up the Zac and Orianna, loss of CC and utility, and Ascension so far, Sejuani.
Looking forward to this. You know, I'm kind of wondering if Naul might be showing G4 a thing or two on how to maneuver on this Orianna. But of course, we're still waiting for that final, like, wow.
I like the Talia.
Finally, we're seeing... Oh,
or it could be a Lucian.
Okay. Okay, this is going to be the Talia.
To be fair, the Lucian is quite a good matchup against the Orianna. But I really would not recommend it against a game with a Caitlyn around. At least for this matchup. Here, though, the Talia, I think, is a very good pickup. Generally against YG so far, the way you can manipulate the terrain is quite effective if you combo it with the rest of Ascension's kit. So far, they have Zaya and Sejuani, who really appreciate their enemies being cut off. Let's see the second banning phase. Rakan banned away from Ascension. Good reactive ban against Warlock, as well as the Thresh banned away from Pallet. A little bit of less safety and consistency for YG in the bot lane, as Thresh is one of the most well-balanced, well-rounded supports to have on your team.
A lot of support's going to be banned out.
Janna as well banned out. So it seems like Pallet and Warlock are really going to have a fight over who gets which support here. See which champion YG bans out for their final ban for what might be the final game. We have for today's matches Alistar banned away from Warlock. So the pool of supports has really been narrowed down. Lulu is a contested pick probably for this one. Could even be the Braum for Ascension if they want to take advantage of the Sejuani pickup. They definitely at least want one melee champion to synergize with the Sejuani. Seems like the Braum will be their pickup. Very good synergy here. And imagine all the terrain manipulation by battlefield control of the Glacial Fissure, and then blocking off a path with Weaver's Wall. And it's so potent. As for YG, going for the lane control and the damage with Zyra. So pairing it up with Big Koros, Caitlyn here means loss of damage, doubling down on the Herbalist picks, the Botany picks here. It's going to be Maokai for the top lane for Ren. Loss of tankiness, loss of utility, but no slouch in terms of damage.
Been a while since I've actually seen a Caitlyn Zyra, so very interesting to see how that dynamic will actually work out for Young Generation here, but for Ascension Gaming. So, okay, there we go.
Trundle is a possible pickup. Lots of Freljord here for Ascension, especially if G4 goes for the Snow Day skin for Talia. But on the mechanical side, the Trundle could be very effective against Zac and Maokai. Just having stealing away tank stats from YG's tanks will be quite effective to put Jisoo on the map as not only a frontline damage sponge, but also as a shredder. Anyone who faces up against Jisoo will have all their resistances drained. And that actually gives him a lot more damage than usual.
Man, I'm itching to see how this game will transpire. You know, interesting picks in the form of the Zyra and the Trundle, which we haven't really seen as much, especially...
That's true.
You know, with Zyra, with the fall off of the mage supports.
Yeah, and right now, I'm interested in seeing that matchup against the Braum, because even if the Braum has the Unbreakable, there's just so much possible damage from the plants. And if you combine that with the control that Caitlyn has in lane, then that might mean that Big Koro will have a little bit, or rather, that Essential will have a little bit of trouble.
Indeed, it's going to make a very interesting match here for today. Both sides pulling off all the stops. Ascension Gaming looking to force this into a Game 5 if they still want that easier slot by going... I wouldn't say easier slot, but that at least be one step away from getting that slot to Worlds by going up against Gigabyte Marine. Should they be...
Well, to be fair, it is an easier slot if you consider the amount of effort that they have to put into it.
True.
Because having to go through another best of 5 is definitely grueling. So they have to pay attention to that. They really want to win this for the best chance of going to having the prestige, having the honor of going to the World Championships.
Indeed, glory is the name of what is on the line here.
And it's going to be very interesting if YG wins this. It's their first time in the GPL, and it will be, and if they go to Worlds with that kind of experience, the GPL is going to be very interesting.
Indeed.
Quite the record, I believe. But Ascension really needs to step up here if they want to deny YG that honor.
Yeah, I mean, not just that, but also there is this bar that has been set where Vietnam is now considered a dominant country out of the different countries here in the Southeast Asian Garena Premier League. So, you know, you definitely don't want to set that bar wherein the second seed of Vietnam beats out on the rest of the Southeast Asian
everyone else, the champions of everyone else. That's just going to prove that Vietnam's definitely the best region within Southeast Asia. And here, the rest of Southeast Asia definitely has something to prove here with the two last contenders, Ascension, and so definitely they have to do something about this.
There we go. So it looks like that'll be the spot out. But for the meantime, yeah, looking at the plans here coming in from Palette off the passive. So Big Koro as well. Trying to get the connect on there from Warlock, but not necessarily working for him.
Just seeing if they can... Wow, Jisoo is very aggressive. He's diving in deep. Wow. This is actually a point where Ren can no longer recall. But he has his passive. He can just sap magic out of those minions, out of anyone else.
And if you're... Oh, okay, a flash actually going to be used by Palette right there. But yeah, I'm actually glad that you mentioned that, because now that I realize both the Maokai and the Trundle have some form of innate sustain through their passives.
Oh, look at that.
Here.
Big Koro and Palette, aggressive start here. They want to immediately push Warlock and Lloyd into the turret, get that early level 2 level lead.
Indeed. We'll go G4 trying to get some farm on. So we'll just have to see how that works out. Jisoo, though, as seen here, kind of on the lower end of the spectrum here, while Ren already back to full health, actually.
Yeah, definitely. That's an innate sustain, plus the Corrupting Potion helping him out there. Jisoo, of course, content with just that Doran's Blade, giving him that lifesteal. And I do think that the regeneration from Jisoo is a lot more, what do you say, consistent, because whenever a minion dies, he always gets that back, while Ren, it really depends on how many spells both of these laners use.
I think that's the tricky part right there, which is why Maokai somewhat does pretty okay against the Trundle, because as far as getting those spells up, I mean, the tricky part here for Jisoo here is that he actually makes an easier proc for that because of the chomp on Trundle, wherein, let's say they go for trades, wherein Chomp, you know, you really want to get those, you really want to get the damage on, but then again, it also makes it easier for Ren to proc up.
I do think 1 or 2 bites should be enough.
Indeed.
However, let's look at how the junglers are faring. Seems like Venus is not yet going for his red buff after doing his blue buff. Seems like he's just going for a little bit of vision control, might gank G4 here, but he is spotted out by Ward. That might have saved Naul's life, because otherwise G4 would have all in. But here comes Looney coming for a gank against Big Koro and Palette.
Yes, let's see if he'll be able to get the connect, though. They are continuing the chase here, but it looks like Palette will have to be the sacrifice here, as First Blood will ultimately be going to Lloyd.
Lloyd, that might be a little lead that he needed, because all this time, in those 2 games rather, where YG was dominating, it was Lloyd being bullied and pushed into his lane, lane's turret. And here, that might be, that 400 gold might be the little stepping stone he needs to get his get a foothold in this game.
There we go. So we'll just have to see if this continues on for the box side here. Definitely a great start, though. And as far as Well, ultimately, we'll just have to see though, because as far as Scally definitely doesn't hold out from Pallet here, is a bit more vulnerable, but Venus actually might start something. We'll just have to see. Actually jumps in. Nope. Actually, we'll just go in for the safety instead.
Just a little bit. So far, though, successful ganks going to not even Nooney, because he did not have an assist from that kill they had against Pallet.
Trade on Ren, though, actually running towards the Colossus, so it'll actually make a harder trade for Jisoo, now that I realize, because it's very much easy to proc that shield for
Nooney going for a repeat gank. No flash for Big Koro nor Pallet, but I do think they have a small idea of what's going on.
See, they have to be a little bit more careful. Pallet, though, might be in trouble. Actually gets knocked up, and that'll be the connect. Unfortunately,
wow, they're still going for it.
Able to survive. Lloyd actually continuing. Might be a little bit too aggressive there, but that will force his engine gaming back. For the meantime, Venus as well would have been able to go for the response as he is low on health.
What the heck was that? Lloyd did not need to commit too hard into that. That was definitely a misplay, leaving YG still behind in the bot lane, but since Lloyd is behind in health, he has to recall, which gives YG a little bit of breathing room, allowing Big Koro to recover from the earlier ganks.
Indeed, and that's rather unfortunate because it's been a consistent trend wherein we see these small misplays too, even such as that. Somewhat of an overstep in a way.
It might have just been natural for Lloyd to recall, seeing as now he is able to build a BF sword. But the big thing is the flash. No flash for next gank or to finish off a kill. Jisoo wailing on Ren. Look at all that damage, but so far, it's still very, very even. The biggest thing here is that now that Lloyd has BF sword, Big Koro will have his run for his money. G4 and Venus beating each other here.
Catches out Venus here. That's quite the damage that he's taking. Jisoo as well might have to be a little bit careful there. Actually gets a great knockback onto Venus, but he will need to survive with a slither of health as both G4 and
I believe he
Ren
still has his cell division. Jisoo and G4 have to rotate out of there. It does leave Naul with a little bit of free time to push in that wave, but at this point, it's a little too late for him to roam.
Indeed. There we go, though. Nonetheless.
Oh, there we go. Big Koro able to get his own BF sword. Not even missing a beat in terms of itemization against Lloyd, even with that deficit that he got against Lloyd. 400 gold lead on Lloyd means that should have meant that there's a huge spike, but now, at this point, it's safe to assume that Big Koro and Lloyd essentially have the same amount of gold in their pockets.
Indeed, with a control ward to boot, not to mention. So, very interesting. Again, young generation doing a great job at making sure that regardless, well, their bot lane particularly, that they don't necessarily fall behind here. So, very good on them. And
they have to be more careful now that both mid laners are level 6, but the roam potential from G4 is much stronger.
For it, Shockwave into a missed knockup though, coming in from Venus. Though. It does get the yank in onto G4. G4 forced to proc his heal though to save his
both summer spells. That is a good gank coming from Venus. So if he goes for a repeat gank, I'm pretty sure that's a sure kill already. Once Shockwave gets off cooldown once again.
Indeed.
Yeah, very good. Stretching Strikes is such a great ability. It pretty much cancels out a flash if you have a minute to go on, but that's the danger.
Weaver's wall actually, but still no. Naul rather gets the kill. Venus gonna try to save his teammate, but no. Nooney actually at bay, forcing Venus to back away.
1-for-1 there in the mid lane. The kill, however, goes to Nooney. I believe Naul gets the better deal, the better end of the stick here. So let's see. What's the next target here for both of these teams so far? It's a little bit slower than the previous game. Indeed. A little bit closer. Ascension is putting up a fight here. They're actually a little bit in the lead.
Somewhat reminiscent, I'd say, of Game 1 earlier. But nonetheless, you know, Ascension Gaming finally realizing what's on the line here. So playing it a little less reckless, I'd say. But we'll just have to see how that works out, because towards the mid and late game, that's where they kind of start making questionable plays, I'd say, but still looking very good thus far.
Is Jisoo trying to look for a fight with a full health Ren? He does have the subjugate. Could be possible. But right now, it seems like he's just waiting around the wings. G4 as well is waiting around the corner. So they can potentially do this. Weaver's Wall is not available, but Ren. Gotta feel the heat here.
Gets snared by the nature's grasp, so that'll prevent any aggression coming in from Ascension Gaming right there.
So far, seems like still very even. All of these laners are actually more mindful of any roams that might happen from any jungler or mid laner. So they're a lot more careful, but so far, Big Koro, as I said, pretty much equal in gold. Now the Xerxes might make the difference, but Big Koro and Pallet, because of their damage, are still dominating this bot lane control. And because G4 went roam top lane, and Naul actually is pushing this mid lane with his Booba very, very effectively. This leaves this bot lane from YG with a lot more room. Oh, he kidnaps him.
Bounce though, but that'll connect into a glacial prison as that'll force the passive away from Venus. But these are a lot of members coming in from Ascension Gaming. This is going to be disastrous as 2 members ultimately of Young Generation go down.
Ooh, that is well played, come from YG. A great collapse. Making it a 4v2 into a 4v1, taking them away helplessly. Pallet tries to go for some damage on the Warlock. I don't think it's going to be enough to push him away from the lane as Nooney is right around the corner to help him out.
Gets the knock up onto Pallet though, but that is
good flash. But here comes G4 as well. He has the reverse wall almost ready. But all that time was used by Jisoo as well to pressure this mid lane and take away the turret. First turret of the game goes to Ascension, and now they're the ones with the initiative. They're the ones who are starting this game on the right foot.
Indeed. Really good right there for Ascension Gaming. So we'll just have to see if Young Generation can get that comeback. Although, it's still very much within feasibility. We have seen just how powerful Venus and Naul could be when combined. But then again, because of losing out on that mid turret, that might be a missed opportunity right now. So we'll just have to see how Young Generation adjusts to this.
Definitely. So right now, however, Venus finding himself caught out in terms of the vision. He is still under a ward. It seems like YG right now losing a little bit of steam. Venus is not reaching a high level of ganking as he was earlier. It seems like Ascension is now adapting and is able to play safely enough with a vision game as well as just the lanes in general to not be ganked constantly by the YG jungler.
Here we go. So for both sides right here, it's very, very interesting. This is definitely a good pace for Ascension Gaming. Those last 2 games were very awkward, so I'm liking that there's a little bit more restraint, I'd say, not really forcing it too much. And it's basically from what I've seen
G4
here,
going for something with this one. Pallet and Big Koro.
Yes, indeed.
Only Big Koro has
Venus,
to
though,
flash.
actually gets the knockup, but then again,
Look at that burst.
getting the kill though. Venus trying to gank people in, but still, that is going to be 2 members of Young Generation down. Man, oh
Seems
man.
like Naul, naturally, he is behind in terms of the roam because G4 naturally just can roam where, and Naul has no way to actually chase that roam at the exact same pace as G4 can bring it. It seems like YG right now not respecting any sort of power from G4 as well as the burst that can happen from a Blade Caller from Lloyd.
And Jisoo continuing the split here. So this is a lot that Young Generation has to deal with right now. Not only are they trying to push things, but also they're kind of missing out on discounting Jisoo, who's just doing what a Trundle does.
Just pushing, just ignoring the opposing tank because he can just regenerate all the damage that Ren brings out. And even if Venus joins the fight, I'm pretty sure that Jisoo can 1v2 them.
Indeed. It's like the composition that we're looking here from Young Generation. It's almost reminiscent of something that I'd see from early season 6, maybe.
Yeah, even that's what I was thinking. But the thing here is that Jisoo right now, I love that they picked up Trundle at the very last moment because it just allows them to dominate top lane here. A little bit of a domination there in the top lane, and because top lane is being pressured, Ren cannot as easily just teleport willy-nilly because that will force a teleport from Jisoo, which might actually be work to YG's disadvantage.
And the tricky part here is that even without Jisoo, the rest of the remaining members of Ascension, when they engage, they're actually pretty solid, even without that missing component. Well, as opposed to Young Generation, in order to deal with that, they need to go full circle in these team fights by almost needing to be complete in a way. And that's just something that's tricky for them, because they have to choose whether or not they have to fend off the 4-man from Ascension.
G4 might be in trouble, but
yes, indeed, that is going to be a Yin coming in from Venus right there. Let's Bounce connecting onto G4 is taken down,
this
though.
might be a turning
but
point.
That's going to be a lot of damage as well being dealt by Ascension Gaming here. Jisoo actually gets the kill onto Pallet. Will be transitioning onto Ren potentially, but that's also a lot of damage. Still, Ascension Gaming continues to chase. The Young Generation may have to back away. Still, that is going to be the shutdown onto Nooney, but double kill in exchange for Lloyd. Jisoo and Ren are continuing to juke it out. Does get the kill, though.
Naul might have what it takes.
Continuing, and that is going to be only Lloyd, the only surviving member, as we lead into a 3-for-4 actually in favor
of YG. That's what I'm talking about. They might have the potential because they got the jump on Ascension. And I think this is good news for YG, not just because that they won that 3v4, rather 3-for-4, but because they were able to get a win while behind. Look at that, beautiful. G4 gets in the middle of all the damage. They take out a priority target, not the best Shockwave. Look at that, that would have been a great Shockwave target. Instead, he just hits Warlock. But the initiative to actually take that fight means that YG has the potential. If that Shockwave was played and aimed a little bit better, it would have been completely in YG's favor.
Indeed, and now that I look at it, Jisoo was a little bit late for that fight. That would have been a little bit better.
That was one of the big factors as well.
So here we go, the Ascension Gaming, an easy take on this Dragon for
Cloud Drake is not too big, but on a Taliyah, it's actually very good.
Oh,
just double downing on any move speed out of combat is good for someone that loves to roam like Taliyah. It seems like it'll depend on how he uses it with the Weaver's Wall, with his passive as well.
There we go. So, nonetheless, Young Generation definitely showing some signs of fight here. Again, I feel like it's more critical. Positioning is very critical when it comes to Young Generation composition, as well as making sure that they don't allow
Warlock
elements such as Big Core to get the takedown. But then again, that is going to be
on his way.
Glacial Prison, but Venus trying to negate this. But then again, those are a lot of members of Ascension Gaming coming in. Let's Bounce actually managing to take down one member. Lloyd won't be able to take this takedown on Warlock, though. So nonetheless,
big win there for Ascension, and I think that's one of the kryptonites you can have against YG. Is that so far the way that they've been playing is that once they get a lead, they go straight for it. But if they're behind, it's hard for them to get back into the game. And you can get back into the game. The way they try to make their leads is by roaming and then picking apart one by one the opposition. But because Ascension has the Weaver's Wall, they always have the initiative. 3v3 will become a 4v3 in their favor every single time. And here, actually, Venus enters the fight too late, despite the one being there first.
Very, very unfortunate. But overall, looking good for Ascension Gaming.
Yeah.
So definitely a lot more cleaner, I'd say, because a lot of their initiates during Game 2 and 3 were pretty sloppy. So these are a lot more cleaner, really utilizing the kit of the champions that they have on their composition to the T. I really like the use of Weaver's Wall coming in from G4 to deny any potential escapes from Young Generation.
I'm a big fan of using Taliyah in pro play, and I'm loving how Ascension is using it right now.
This is very textbook, actually, from what you'd expect of a Taliyah, beyond just the offensive, but also denying any exit coming in. Basically, it's like trapping your prey here.
Yeah, and because they knew that at that time Big Core and Pallet had no way to escape because of all the CC, then the wall is just so effective because that means you can't just flash over, because you have to flash away from your opposition. So all that just combines into quite an ordeal for the bot lane. Big Koro, even with the Zerx Greaves and the IE having a lot of trouble.
Oh, there we go, though. Jisoo might be caught in a tough place here as Big Core and Venus continue to chase.
Very survivable. Look at that, stealing tag stats from Venus.
Indeed, and that is going to be the turret takedown, though. But in the midst of all that, Ascension Gaming will be trading a very nifty Rift Herald in exchange, which I'd say is a better trade.
Yeah, because Rift Herald could potentially be 1 or 2 turrets.
Indeed, depending on how
and
they play
looking
it.
at the Ascension's lead right now, they are in a position where they can translate that Rift Herald into 2 turrets. And it seems like they will try using that around mid lane or top lane.
Again, the nice thing about Ascension Gaming here is that so long as they pull the trigger first into a successful takedown, that's where the magic happens for them. And Young Generation, they just have to be much more aware. Great shockwave on, but fortunately, not enough of a follow-up from the rest of Young Generation here. Looks like they will be backing away for the meantime, Ascension Gaming, as they take down this Rift Herald, but still, an inner top turret is still a pretty nifty prize in exchange. Jisoo actually splitting towards bot side though. So we'll just have to see how this works out. But then again, great rotations coming in from Ascension. But what's actually noteworthy here is a lot of turrets being taken, 6 kills. The goal difference though, I wouldn't say 5,000.
Yeah, around 4,000 isn't
actually
too significant at not 20 minutes. But it's more of the tempo. Indeed. So far, Ascension has had the lead in tempo. Not in terms of just the gold, but objectives. Not just objectives, but also the itemization. That 4,000 gold lead, even if you say it's not that big, the fact is, if you're ahead 300 gold to your opponent, just 300 or just 500, that could potentially already be an Infinity Edge finished over the opposition. That could potentially be a Morellonomicon finished before the opponent, and that will factor in the next fight. And always, what has happened is that the one with better initiative in the itemization has been Lloyd and Jisoo, and that's big.
Losing out on his Banshee's Veil passive from Uni, so I have to be a little bit more careful. Might be caught out, but looks like Ascension Gaming gonna establish some offensive control
They
towards
have to
the
do
side.
something. Venus right around the corner.
Ooh, Venus
found
might be
out.
caught in a tight place here. Jumps away to safety though, but that'll be the blue buff take. The steal coming in from Ascension Gaming, so they're just clearing out what they can. It's kind of like a siege in a way of what treasures they could read from the side of Young Generation here to much success.
Just a little raid here and there. Jisoo, yeah, Ren here cannot face up against Jisoo.
There we go, we have a little bit of a fight here. Weaver's Brawl actually separates Pallet from the rest of the squad here as he is taken down. The rest of Young Generation have to back away from this for the meantime, but still, Jisoo actually towards the spot side here, getting some great split push on, while the rest of Young Generation deal with Ascension Gaming.
Oh dear, that is the Baron call. There's no pallet for that battlefield control, but it seems like they will be canceling it a little bit. Nope, they will just check a little bit.
Yes, you know, better safe than sorry. Looks like G4 will be the one to scout out.
It's a little bit too late at this point.
Indeed.
Venus can no longer... actually, never mind. They're actually...
They might get a whole great shockwave, though, but still, that is going to be a dead Venus, though, as Lloyd ultimately gets the kill, make that 2 members, but in exchange, they do get Warlock, though, but still, Young Generation trying to juggle this out, shut down onto Lloyd. 2 members make that 3 members still very low. Both G4 and Nuni and Jisoo might have to back away from this pallet as well, exerting the damage that he can. Big Koro as well, getting some basic stacks on, and that is going to be the takedown onto Jisoo as Big Koro gets the kill.
Big Koro free to hit every single champion.
Ooh.
It seems like G4 might be the next target here. Indeed. He has no escape.
Caught in a very tight place there, but will be going down to Big Koro
that
as well.
That could be the turnaround. Because a lot of that gold went to Big Koro, right? And the thing is, Big Koro was the one who really needed that boost in gold. Getting those kills by stopping the Baron by Ascension means that the next fight, Big Koro will be much stronger. Big Koro might even be the one to start the Baron for this. Nuni is available, but they're doing this very, very slowly.
This could be very interesting right now.
This could be disastrous for YG. Because Lloyd
might be forcing this a bit too hard.
Nuni right around the corner. He has the Glacial Prison. They cannot overcommit too hard unless they can ensure it. Venus actually goes over.
Indeed, this might be a fight here. Warlock actually does go down, but in exchange, they do manage to get Venus.
Oh dear, this might actually pass the Baron onto Ascension if they're not careful.
Indeed, Shockwave, actually Lloyd managing to dodge it. with that is going to be a good zone.
What a Baron dance.
I know, it just keeps on going back and forth in this case. Ascension, YG now back to Ascension. G4 actually within the vicinity now, trying to do what he can to zone out the rest of YG.
They have no chance of stealing this any longer. They have no chance of stopping this. And this is because YG got a little too greedy. YG got greedy there. And they thought they could take the Baron after stopping Ascension, but because Nooney was available, Lloyd was available, if you get into a back and forth dance with Baron, and the one that loses second is actually the one that loses completely. And here, very nice shockwave. Not really in the long run very impactful, but here, because Ren is able to flank from behind, Big Koro is able to get a very nice free hit around. The flash is actually enough, and the damage and CC come from Ren enough to actually stop Jisoo from the pursuit against Big Koro, and here he just picks him apart. But the play of YG after that was disastrous.
That was just too much, and I don't know. There's
too ambitious. Too ambitious.
Too ambitious.
They didn't have. That was going to be a very slow Baron. They should have known that because there was no play of the Ruin King on any member, and they're playing two tanks, one utility, AD carry who doesn't really have Baron killing specialties. That just means Ascension gets what they want in the end.
Indeed, Ascension actually now on the offense right now with Young Generation forced to just kind of defend as hard as they can here. But we'll just have to see though, regardless of the siege definitely being on Ascension's side. You know, they're not really going for some heavy configurations as far as pushes here, kind of boating their time, able to take down the inner bot turret, transitioning into a dragon. So we'll just have to see if this actually leads to any inhibitor takes. That's actually the
Pallet, a little bit of trouble.
Pallet,
oh my
gets
dear.
decimated.
Lord.
That is going to be the glacial friction to try to get anyone else from the Young Generation, but that's not going to...
Why face check that though?
Indeed, very awkward, especially having just taken dragon. That would have been a telltale sign easily. So very awkward indeed though, but this will give the signal to Ascension Gaming to potentially take down an inhibitor turret along with an inhibitor. Here we go, Big Koro actually using the traps to zone out the rest of Ascension from any further takes. Will this halt them from taking any inhibitor turrets though? That is the question that I'm actually
That is the big
seeing.
question, and right now YG on the defensive, on the back foot, needs to recuperate, and the way that they can win this game is just banking on a great shockwave from Naul and Big Koro free hitting. And that is very hard when Ascension is constantly charging in onto Big Koro, Warlock and Jisoo, a very good wall for the rest of Ascension. And Nooney as well. And Jisoo will just try to dive in onto Big Koro, and all of that means that it's so hard for Big Koro to deal the damage that he needs to do.
There we go. So looks like Baron's still very much up. Ascension continuing the pressure here across the sides that Young Generation has to respond to. Nonetheless, still 11-17 on our scoreboard right now. So things have gone a little bit more, even with this Baron buff, I'd say. You know, Young Generation,
a little slower.
Yeah, a little slower. So Young Generation definitely doing a good job at holding off Ascension.
You have quite a respectable wave clear, and Big Koro deals a lot of single target damage with his auto attacks, so it's definitely defensible. But the thing is, if their attention is elsewhere, they can't very well defend against a split push, and that's what Jisoo is doing right now. And Jisoo might actually overstay his welcome.
The shockwave does not connect.
Look at that tankiness from the subjugate.
Forced to flash away though. But
by
still,
stealing stats away from Ren, it actually helps Jisoo so much to survive that.
Ascension Gaming though pushing up here towards top lane. Lloyd is making good money out of this turret here, but that was going to be the stun onto Venus right there, taking a bit of damage, but still a good way to fend off Ascension Gaming. Still able to prevent any inhibitor turret takes. I feel like that's the crucial thing right here. So long as Young Generation doesn't give up any of their inhibitor turrets, then they're pretty much good. It's a good reset. But there we go. G4 might actually be in a tight place here. But then again, he is outnumbered here.
So is
the passive going to
Venus.
be up, but still no follow-up here. Big Koro actually following on damage from behind, but Lloyd able to take down Venus right here in this case. But this might be the goal signal for Ascension Gaming to try to push for an inhibitor turret, but then again, Baron is down for them, so that will restrain them.
Man, the YG just slowly putting up a defense against Ascension, but they have but that's a 9K gold deficit, and they have not made any big plays to actually try and get the game back in their hands, get the control of the game in their clutches. So far, it's just been Ascension attacking YG and YG surviving. This might be their opportunity, however.
Ooh, there we go. Nature's Grass actually.
Wow, unbreakable.
Warlock though. Shockwave to take down the support of Ascension game here. That's quite the consolation prize. But then again, Jisoo in exchange does get the split here towards bot side, but that will be a third down regardless. As Jisoo gets the next balance on, that is going to be the ultimate coming in from Big
He's so tanky.
Jisoo takes a while to take him down, but then again, this may be the signal. Ascension Gaming, did they get enough of a push towards mid side? No, unfortunately, but regardless, that is an inhibitor turret down towards bot side, which is regardless
Which can be important, especially with a threat of Baron buff being up in a minute and a half. That could be the opening that Jisoo needs.
Indeed.
Like, while they're busy dancing around Baron, pressure that bot lane, and since Ren no longer has any defenses, he does not have a turret to fall back on to defend that inhibitor. So if Ren just slowly but surely pushes that bot lane, then Ren will eventually have to retreat, and that will give Jisoo the time to push that inhibitor and pressure YG, make a decision. Do we stop Baron, or do we stop Ascension from doing Baron, or do we respond to an inhibitor?
Agreed. So there you go right now, 13 and 18 on our scoreboard here. Has slowed down a bit regardless of all the action, but like you did mention, there is a window of opportunity for Ascension Gaming. It all depends on how Young Generation plays out the next few minutes of this game.
Dear. What's happening?
Onto Warlock here, still very tanky though, as Lloyd actually kites around to deal some significant damage himself.
So far, it's been very, very effective. Ascension, with all their tanky members, takes such a toll on YG, and the fact is their carries are quite slippery as well. G4 has a lot of tools to peel for himself, and Lloyd has the Featherstorm. Ooh, now going for quite a play there against the AD carry of Ascension Lloyd. Doesn't pay off.
Indeed, this is the awkward part right here for Young Generations. The outer mid turret actually still up.
They have to make a play. Jisoo is their time limit. If Jisoo gets onto the inhibitor and they don't get anything significant, they completely lose out on the trade.
Indeed, there we go, taking down outer turret, but not enough. Gets the shockwave onto just Nooney, but they'll be forced to back away as
not
they have
Jisoo
to worry about right now. That was a little bit too much time invested as Ascension Gaming goes for the counter to prevent any recalls coming in from Young Generation, and that is going to be the inhibitor taken down.
And because the inhibitor is taken down on the bot lane while Baron's up, that is the biggest conundrum that you can have, the biggest ordeal, because now your bot lane is pushing hard and you have no way, almost no way of stopping YG if you allocate resources to defending that bot lane. So now they have to wait out, and since Venus is very low, I don't think he can steal the Baron, but because the Ascension stopped it, seems like they're just satisfied with what they got from that bot lane inhibitor.
Indeed, so there we go, 13 and 18, still very much slow, but then again, this will help pick up the pace for Ascension Gaming with that inhibitor down. But here we go, Young Generation gonna try to contest this Baron. Very, very tricky. I see the teleport happening. Victoria might be caught in space, but no, that's gonna be the Shockwave. Naul himself taking a lot of damage. G4 actually joins the fray, dealing not a substantial damage himself. Jisoo manages to take down Naul here. This might be the reverse that Ascension needs to potentially finish this game right here. Young Generation trying to flee a lot of low health members here. Lloyd getting the kill onto Ren. Let's bounce. Coming in from Venus here. Nooney gets the kill onto Pallet. Only one remaining member of Young Generation alive. Venus goes down, and that is going to be the ace for Ascension Gaming.
And I think that has to be the game with these long death timers, half a minute. They'll just converge around bot side and end this. This will be a 2-2. This might be
Indeed,
an Ascension just getting back in the game. Where after this 2-2, they have momentum with YG with their backs now both of these teams have their backs to the wall here, and it's up to which one can move out of that corner and pull the trigger. This is Ascension taking away the 4th game of this best-of-5 series.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to Ascension Gaming. Looks like we will indeed be heading into a Game 5 right now. 2-2, the odds are fairly even. Wow, what an intense, very different from the first best of 5 that we had earlier. So anyone's game pretty much, but let's go ahead and talk about what happened here. So
yeah, what happened there was that the First Blood going to the Zaya. Actually, at first, it wasn't that big, but the fact that they got first blooded is telltale of how they're playing in that lane. And G4 just took advantage of that bot lane constantly, blocking off their escapes, making sure that the gank is successful, and they just snowballed off of that.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. But ladies and gentlemen, we are at match point for both sides now. But I mean, I'm just having jitters right now. That was absolutely insane. But nonetheless, ladies and gents, be sure to stay tuned once again. That was Game 4 going to Ascension Gaming. When we come back, we'll be figuring out who will be going up against the Gigabyte Marines as we do Game 5. Once again, this is Arctic at your service, fam. Of course, with me is Atlas. This is the Garena Premier League 2017 Summer Season Knockout Stage. We'll be right back, so stay tuned. Dealt by Ascension game here. Jisoo actually gets the kill onto Pallet. We'll be transitioning onto Ren potentially, but that's also a lot of damage still. Ascension Gaming continues to chase. The young generation may have to back away. Still, that is going to be the shutdown onto Nuni, but double kill in exchange for Lloyd. Jisoo and Ren are continuing to juke it out. Does get the kill though.
Naul might have what it takes.
Continuing, and that is going to be only Lloyd, the only surviving member, as there are a lot of members of Ascension Gaming coming in. Let's Bounce actually managing to take down one member. Lloyd won't be able to take this, but still that is going to be a dead Venus though, as Lloyd ultimately gets the kill, make that 2 members, but in exchange they do get Warlock though, but still Young Generation trying to juggle this out, shut down onto Lloyd. 2 members, makes that 3 members still very low. Both G4 and Nuni and Jisoo might have to back away from this pallet as well, exerting the damage that he can. Big Koro as well, getting some basic attacks on, and that's going to be the takedown onto Jisoo as Big Koro gets the kill.
Big Koro.
Very, very tricky. I see that's not what's happening. Big Koro might be caught in Scar's face, but no, that's going to be the Shockwave. Naul himself taking a lot of damage. G4 actually joins the fray, dealing not a substantial damage himself. Jisoo manages to take down Naul here. This might be the reverse that Ascension needs to potentially finish this game right here. Young Generation trying to flee a lot of low health members here. Lloyd getting the kill onto Ren. Let's Bounce coming in from Venus here. Nuni gets the kill onto Pallet. Only one remaining member of Young Generation alive. Venus goes down, and that is going to be the ace for Ascension Gaming.
Back to the wall here, and it's up to which one can move out of that corner and pull the trigger. This is Ascension taking away the 4th game in this best of 5 series.